Hi, my name is Dennis Kirban. I used to own Kirban Performance. I still own Kirban Enterprises. Over the years, a lot of my customers have asked to see some of my personal collection that I've accumulated over 50 some years in the business. I've been fortunate. I've never had to work for anybody or draw a paycheck after I did my 3-year stunt in the Army, and which 1 year was in Vietnam. So what I did is, over the years, I started accumulating items. I mostly went after Hearst, GTO, and Buick. They were the three big things. I can remember when my dad had his printing business in Glenside, and before I would even have his driving age, Hearst had a small building around the corner there in Glenside, and I would go over there and get various decals and put them on the covers of my books. I was always amazed that here was a major company with full-page ads in Hot Rod and Carcraft magazine, and unlike all the other ones, they're located right here in my area instead of California, where all the action was really taking place back then. You had all the cam companies and such. But Hearst really made a statement, and that was my first love before I even got into cars, basically, was collecting Hearst items. So with that in mind, I'm going to take you a tour. This is an actual room in our house that, you couldn't even put a price tag on it. I have a lot of one-of-a-kind items in here. And like I said, I collected a lot of original advertising signs before they become popular in the last 15, 20 years. But it'll touch on a lot of the different Buick and Hearst and GTO and some of my personal items from my parents and all. But so here we go. This was artwork that was done years ago. He made 2,000 copies. You've probably seen them for sale at Carlisle. And I have one of that framed. This was a limited production thing that was a local guy, Brad Little, did for my reunion event, and this was done in 1990. That's the original artwork. This I bought at Carlisle one year, and I had Dural completely painted in two-tone, and I hung it on the wall. There's another piece from Molly from the first run artwork. And it was for my 60th birthday, You're the Man, Molly, 2007. It was soon after that, of course, Molly, as you know, passed away. So you can imagine what his signature, his autograph is going to be worth. It's like anybody else, it becomes more famous once the person passes away. This is from Linda Vaughn to me. She came to the one show we had here. My dad was a pretty well-known author. He wrote over 50 books, mostly on Bible prophecy and health. But 2 of his early books, nobody would publish, so he published them himself. This book hit 500,000 in sales. So naturally, after that, he had no trouble getting a publisher. And I have the artwork. There's the artwork laid out. And this will all be passed down to my son, and, Devin, our granddaughter, would inherit it next in line. Of course, there's a Snoopy with the old dial phone. For some of you young people who don't know what a dial phone is, there's one right there. IBM typewriter was my parents' typewriter from the house. I still use it today to type envelopes. This is an uncut catalog cover from 1967. The Hearst, this was the most, I think, the best looking catalog cover that Hearst did. And if you notice these 3 wheels here, one was chrome, one was blue, and I think one was red. I have the actual blue wheel, which you'll see later on this video, in my private collection. And notice they even put the Hearst ring, the sun reflection on it. It's a shame the Hearst wheel never really took off. Back in my GTO days, I've sold almost 30 sets of Hearst wheels. Today, a nice set of Hearst wheels, especially unmounted GM bolt pattern, will bring close to $10,000. This is probably one of the earliest Hearst banners you'll ever see. It's brand new. Notice the logo is straight up and down, unlike an angled one. I would say this is from the early 60s. I got no way of knowing for sure. I've never seen another one. I was very lucky. I hooked up with the original art director that was at Hearst probably over 20 years. The thing with him is he would take the items home to photograph for the catalogs. The problem is he never took them back to the plant. So years later, I would go every week or every 10 days and actually go down and buy all this Hearst stuff from him. Over the years, I did that. So moving along, here's the Yoda that Pepsi did. I don't know how many of them they did, and I don't know what the value is today. By the way, that's probably my second black hat. These are all Stetson hats. My dad did these mugs years ago, featuring a GTO every year, and made the case. So I have one of them. He didn't really do much in the car business, but he did that, I guess, to try it. This is very rare. My wife's father was stationed in Hawaii when the Japanese hit Pearl Harbor that Sunday morning. And this is a piece of either one of the planes or one of the ships that they, my wife's parents passed it down to me because of my military background. And I really cherish that, and of course that would get passed down. This, some of you people might recognize. This is from the Hallmark Maxine theme. This is actually a full-size mannequin. What's nice about this is, first of all, it was brand new in the box, and the leg is signed by the actual guy that created the whole Maxine theme for Hallmark cards, and that's quite rare. Here you see these little M&M guys. These are the prototypes for what became the display in Las Vegas. Our one relative worked for the sign company, and he got me these when the project was done. This, my dad, I don't know if it was a stroke of luck or what, or the fact that he was in the Navy and so was the guy that developed the Slinky, but my dad did some of the original advertising for the Slinky in the early 1950s, and actually had the artwork done for the Slinky dog in 1952, and there it is. It was $2 if you wanted one of the original Slinkies. I was able to save the artwork. There's no question about it that Hearst's biggest connection was with the Pontiac GTO. I mean, that really put Hearst on the map. I mean, it's just unbelievable that Hearst was able to score that account. Of course, other ones followed in suit: Oldsmobile, Buick, Ford. But the real gimmick was this GTO contest they did. And of course it had the gold Hearst wheels on it. It was Tiger Gold. This is an original ad. I don't know what this was in. It was a poster or what, but I had it framed because I'd never seen one before. I used to travel in the 70s with my dad, who we'd sell his books. He would speak in the churches all over the country. And I was amazed down south at some of the stuff that you could buy. I mean, this is an original Mountain Dew hillbilly mannequin from, I think, 1947. Well, last time I checked, these are worth a couple $1,000. And this one's in mint condition, untouched at all. Here's something very interesting. You probably can't tell, but these are all, you know, in the 60s, there was no computers. If you were a creative designer or an artist, you had to do this all by hand. There's the original artwork. These aren't copies of the Hearst dual gate with the key. That was the the dual gate shifter. And even that's not, you can't, you can see the finished artwork there on that one versus this one. And this one is another original ad, all hand done before it went to print, and appear in Carcraft or Hot Rod. And there's the layout for another ad. These are all original artworks. This is something I bought out there at Carlisle. I figure it's kind of neat. And then, of course, Mad Magazine has really gained in popularity now that I think it's been around for like 75 years. This little guy is bringing good money today. I think I paid $25 for it years ago. People thought I was nuts paying that for that. And of course, you can't go wrong with the Michelin guys. I got a whole bunch of different ones. And I have quite a collection. My dad's 2 books, that's 666 and Guy. Both of them hit $500,000 in sales. And I have the $250,000 mark, the $500,000 mark, and the first edition. And same with the other guide book. This is very unique. This is the T-handle that Linda Vaughn would hold on to on the back of the car, the Oldsmobiles back then. You know why there was a Hearst Olds instead of a Hearst GTO? George Hearst actually liked the whole Oldsmobile over the GTO, even though GTOs is where he made his big money. And of course, that's the dog that went with the full-size Maxine that we showed you a couple minutes ago. Here is that blue Hearst wheel. This is, as far as I know, that's one of one. Anytime you have something that's one of one, the value is through the roof. And there is the actual blue wheel, like brand new, that was used for the cover of that picture. I did have the red one, and I had a Hearst collector. I can't remember what he paid me, but he offered me such big money for it, I sold it. I mean, I only need to keep one. And I don't know what happened to the other one. This, I talked a customer out of selling me. This is an original Stetson box, I think from the 40s or 30s. It's got a different style hat in it. But Stetson, of course, is the big name in hats. So I always wanted one for my collection. There's my dad's artwork when I hit a $250,000, 666. A lot of people have heard of the number 666. My dad also did a comic book on 666. And there's an actual page from the book, that would go to the printer to get put down. Now this is very, very unique. I can't remember how many years ago Daryl was built. Well, he started when he was in high school, building Lamborghini kit cars. Well, he hooked up with a company that put a nightclub together in New York, and they wanted to build a Lamborghini engine that looked correct, and put it on. This was on display, I believe, at the club. And then when the club went under, Daryl got the engine back. I said, man, that'd be great to make a glass table, and I'll put it in my office. And that's what he did. I mean, to look at it, you'd think it's a real Lamborghini motor. I mean, this thing is exact. And for you Buick people, you probably can't see it, but after these K&N filters is actually the inlet bells from the turbo Buicks right there. There's two of them. But I'm told these are flower pots from Walmart. But and then he did the table. He made it nice. I mean, that's priceless to a Lamborghini owner. Oh my goodness. And there, of course, is a half of the go-kart Daryl made this years ago. And he made the mirror background that goes with it. You're looking at these little HO trains. That's from my trains when I was a young kid growing up. And of course, down here is an array of different Hearst shifters. There's the original T-handle sign and various shifters. The real rare one is, I'm going to point it out here, is this one. This was I call it the yo-yo shifter. This is prior, like 1964, where the two halves bolt up, and that was all right for the 3-speed. This is one of the most expensive things I bought. This is actually an award that George Hearst won in the 1950s, because if you remember, Hearst also made motor mounts to put V8 Chevy engines into other cars. So George Hearst went to some event and with his Lincoln, which had a Chevy motor in it, and he took this prize home. It's a good thing I got the picture with the award, because that proves what I'm saying here. Of course, there's the very early Hearst dual gate, locked out by the key, so you couldn't let the little woman shift it individually. Of course, now the dual gate is pretty well known in newer cars today. Now, looking in these cases, these are all Hearst knobs, and I'm going to show you two of the really rare ones. This knob is kind of unique. I don't know what Hearst put this on, but it's got the word Hearst in the gold of the black knob. It's embossed. It's a beautiful Hearst knob. Boy, if they brought this knob back, it would be a big seller today. And of course, one of the other rare ones is this crystal ball type knob. The reason this didn't go over is they put it out on a car in the parking lot when the sun was out. And what happened is the sunlight reflected off it and burned a hole in the guy's seat. So obviously they didn't make many of these. It took me a long time to find one of these. But I probably have, at last count, over 75 different knobs in here. As far as T-handles, of course they came out in the 60s, but here's an interesting fact, and I have both of them. I mean, I'm going to show you one now, but this is a typical 4-speed pattern that would have appeared like in the Judges, and of course Ford used it in some of their cars. But the difference with the Ford one, is the number 4 is an open 4 in the one version, and the other version, the 4 is closed at the top. So unless you know what you're looking at, there are differences. And of course, they made some plastic T-handles, and some of them would break, and then they had some felt-covered ones and all. But they definitely made a lot of different ones. The art director that I bought a lot of this stuff off, he had one, this 58, this is the car he had that he drove to work. So I bought the model which he had, and he had Hurst wheels on it. Of course, the other unique thing with Hurst is they made a couple little gimmick things. There's the gold Hurst wheel cufflinks, tie tack. They did them in silver and gold. These, to the right person that knew what they were looking at and the seller knew what he had, they were probably worth about anywhere from $300 to $500 right now, and it's sure to go up in value. Now they were reproduced by Doc Watson, and he did a really good job. It's hard to tell the difference of them, but they're original because I got them years ago. And then in here, of course, I have various GTO models, and here's the main thing down here is this is the actual Hemi under glass model. It sat on George Hurst's desk. I also had the Tornado that sat on his desk. Of course, down there at the bottom is the spider section of the Hurst wheel, never installed. And then if you look on this other side, I have 4 different caps, one bullet cap, and then 3 other caps. And there's a gold one. When first company reproduced the decal in the middle, for some reason did it green and black instead of gold and black, because what happens is over time the gold fades to green, and I guess they thought it was green instead of gold. And then here's another interesting thing. I ran into a guy probably about 10 years ago. He was in his 80s. He built over 70 different of these models. But what's interesting about it is they're all wood. He created all this. Some of this chrome he took off of other models. Now this is a closed coupe, but this is all done by hand. And I bought them all. I sold every one of them with no problem, but kept about 5 or 6 different ones for my collection. Because anytime you see craftsmanship like that, you can't pass it up. I mean, you got the brake thing on the firewall. I mean, it's just incredible. I mean, some of them even have little springs for this front suspension. Now, this case, every car on this row right here is signed by the person whose car it was. This is signed by Rick Hunt. This one here is, of course, Tweaked. That's signed by Lawrence Conley. That's Molly. That's signed. This is signed by a famous race driver in the Ford world, which I'm not familiar with, but, I go for the autograph things. The Firebird, of course, is signed by Linda Vaughn. The Cobra, of course, is signed by Carl Shelby. And this little Grand National, I had Molly sign the trunk, which was pretty hard to do. And then this was signed by Milt Shornack, of GTO fame. And of course, with my connection with Molly, here is all the prototypes and the finished product of what the turbocharged emblem looked like that he did for the Riviera turbocharged. A lot of people put that emblem on the console. And there's Molly M-Type Designs and the TRD project he did for Toyota. But there's the various little signs that he did. And of course I collect the little cassettes and the 8-tracks from cars, found junkyards, and of course various, the rare keys. The keys have the little block-off plates and the pens that have from the cars, but various different things. And in closing, here's a very unique part. This is a hand done when Hurst did the shifter for the Volkswagen. They made this display. Now this would move with plug into the wall. This is all hand done. This is again one of one. And you figure they made this shifter way, way back. So already that's over 60, 70 years old. This is this probably the banner came out after the earlier one. Notice how Hearst is now sloped, but this is a very rare banner. And of course, in the Hearst world, this is the holy grail. By that I mean this is the one any Hearst person would, give any amount of money for. This is the original Hearst wheel artwork for the Hearst wheel, and it's in the original frame that hung in George Hearst's office in the mid '60s. This is layered. I mean, you can't tell, but I mean, each one's layered on top. How he did that cutout. I mean, this artist was fantastic. I mean, he was actually an artist in World War II for the Army. I mean, the talent he had was just unbelievable. This is, originally Hearst wheels came 2 to a can. This one's signed by Linda Vaughn and Bill Campbell, and Linda Vaughn, and signed it in a couple places. That's an actual lid. There's an actual can that the 2 wheels came in. This is signed by Bill Campbell. I have it signed by Linda Vaughn, and also the first Miss Hearst. I can't think of her. Pat Flannery. So that's probably 101 because I doubt anyone else does. That's to give you an idea what the new reproduction Hearst wheels look like that they made for like the Challengers and stuff. See the size comparison? This is probably an 18 or 20 versus the 14-inch. And you're probably wondering, what in the world is this little plastic box here? Well, this is probably pretty rare. This is the Yugo little wrench for the taking your tires off in a car. And it's got the Yugo logo on it. And granted, the Yugo's a loser, but it's got to be rare. It's rare. And then here's some of the other various signs. This is, a lot of this Coke stuff's been reproduced, but this is an original metal sign. The theme was drink Coca-Cola, and then they went to enjoy. I think drink ran out in the late 60s or mid 60s. Because when I used to travel with my dad down south, I would go into the bottling companies and buy up all their old signs that they were just throwing them away. And then this is pretty neat. From 2007, this guy made this thing up, and people could collect these signatures. I mean, signed by Pete Cero, Ted Hirsch, John Spina. This is from our event. Of course, our son, Daryl Kirban, Molly Sanders. It's very interesting that people could get their signatures. Autographs is something. If you get a chance to get an autograph, get it, because you never know how the value of that autograph will go up or what they accomplish later on in life. But like I said, I've been very fortunate. I've got a nice collection here that our son's going to inherit and hopefully get passed down to Devin, our granddaughter. If you come over here, I forgot about these. There's the original artwork for the Buick Power 6 logo with the Buick on it that Molly did. That's framed. My dad collected autographs when he was in school because you could do it free back then. That's Cecil B. DeMille, you've heard of. That's Frank Capra, did the movie It's a Wonderful Life. And of course, that's Walt Disney. So, I mean, you can imagine what the value of them is. Like I said, my dad was never into cars, but he did have this artwork done by the person that did the cover of the book, The Hot Ones. The name of the artist escapes me. But the amount of the detail, he paid $1,000 for this artwork. And this is back in the, early 60s. And I have it framed. There's 3 more autographs that my dad got. I can't think of their names right. Betty Davis, I forget, Linda somebody, Linda Lovelace, Linda Dave, I forget her name. And I don't know who that person is, but again, you just never know. So I just touched on a lot of the things in this office that I've collected over the years. And I'm still collecting. I mean, because you never know what's going to hit and what's not going to hit. And like I said, I have a lot of personal things. So I appreciate it. And your health is your wealth. Thanks to Devin for videotaping